So let's talk about Darlington, the Cookout Southern 500. We're going to go through this quickly, and then we're going to go through our fantasy picks. Excuse me, our playoff picks. So just quickly on this race, I want to go back to the race. What was it? What was it called earlier this year?
Goodyear 400.
Okay. Yep. So let's take a look together at this first situation here. And this is the wreck. Where is it? Here it is. This is the wreck. Let's see, I want to make sure. This is the Logano Truex wreck. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what was happening there. I think there was maybe some issue there with Logano and Truex throughout the race, maybe. But here's the interesting thing I want to look at, and that is, as we see here. Now look at Larson. He's on the inside on this restart with 13 to go, and look how he gets into Chastain, who's on the outside. Okay, so the wreck is happening, but you could already tell Larson's trying to squeeze Chastain, and this is important. Because, and by the way, Truex, of course, was fourth at this time, and he had wrecked at the end of the second stage, which was a stupid thing to do. We talked about that after that race. So that happens, and that was interesting to me because of the fact that what we get after that is when we come back to the restart with, I forget how many there were to go in the final restart. So let's get to this one.
5 or 6 to go?
Yeah, 5 or 6 to go. So Chastain decides, I'm going to take the inside. And he squeezes Larson. But he does it, and he gets out of control and wrecks to both of them, and Byron just... Whoop. By the way, Byron, I believe, was 7th with 13 to go. And the 2 wrecks just opened it up, and that's why he was able to steal the win. So what did you think about how that all went down, CJ?
It's interesting to see them in sequence now. It was definitely interesting that those incidents were happening at the lead of the race, because at that time, both drivers clearly had a chance to win. They were very quick on the day. Same thing with Truex. I mean, but Truex is a little bit different. But yeah, and then everybody turns around. Everybody turns around and blames Chastain, don't they?
Wasn't this the time of the season when they were like slamming Chastain about, and then he kind of decided not to be so aggressive anymore?
Exactly right. Yeah. Absolutely, but then you just proved right there that he was the one, and maybe it goes back even prior races. Maybe it's unfair just to look at a few laps, but people are definitely racing Chastain differently. And I remember his interview afterward. He said he was trying to squeeze Larson, and he did it improperly and ended up crashing. And I heard him say recently that he just needs to hit less things while being out there. But yeah, this was very much a time of the season when everybody was just ganging up on him. But you demonstrate right here through the replays that he was getting it as much as he was giving it to.
Yes.
I think he was unjustly called out multiple times. And I think this is the case where he was probably called out unjustly yet again.
Eric?
Yeah, this was definitely 100% agree. This is the turning point right here of Ross Chastain's season, and that first restart you showed was the reason why. And because he, as CJ said, I think he's unfairly blamed. He just did the same thing that Larson did, but everybody blamed Chastain. And ever since this moment is when he got sat down by Chevy and Trackhouse and basically told him, to back it off. And he's not been the same driver since. He's not even close. He, I believe he's only got a couple top 5 finishes since then. One of them's a win.
Yeah.
So, which was in Nashville. And it's a reason why I've got him on upset alert in the playoffs. That moment right there. And he crashes a lot at Darlington. That's why, to get into a preview of my pick, I didn't take him just because he leads a lot of laps. He's up front there. He just crashes a lot, and he can't afford to do that this weekend. But I feel like we might get that old Ross Chastain back, and he seems to find danger with crashing. I think it's in his head. I just think it's all right now in his head, and this is the moment, this is the track, this is what started it. And unfortunately, they reeled him in, and we talked about it then. With why would you harness a guy that he's made his name and his reputation and a career over aggressive driving style? And this moment right there, I think, kind of neutered him, to be honest with you. And now he's in the position he's in because of that.
All right, so that's just a little bit to get you ready for our limited preview this week. Again, because most of our show is going to be on predicting and analyzing the playoff picture and the futures and stuff. So it's interesting because we've now had 14 different straight winners at Daytona. Eric,
14. Yep.
14.
Another one.
Okay.
Yep.
So not as many as Daytona, but we have 6 different winners at Darlington over the last 6. And those starting positions, 5 out of the 6 started in the top 8. Now, Jones did not. He won last year. He's the defending champ, started 15th. And this is now, normally this has been a pretty boring track, but after what we just saw this year, and with the new car, even though they had it last year, maybe we'll see some, crazy stuff. Homestead is the only track that we really want to take a look at as far as the similarities with Darlington, Eric.
Yeah, they're the two close. I mean, it's a tire track, and Atlanta used to be, but now that it's kind of a reconfigured super speedway, you want to look at tracks where tire fall off and managing tires. And Richmond's kind of in that realm, but it's not a high speed track, so I wouldn't really put Richmond because it's more of a short track package, anyways. So yeah, Homestead would be your closest comparison to these two.
All right, and we only agreed on one driver this week, and that was Denny Hamlin. That's it. One driver. Now, Eric and I agreed on 5, but all 3 of us just Denny Hamlin. So who would be your top pick this week, CJ?
Denny Hamlin.
Okay.
I tried to put them all even in terms of payout, but Denny Hamlin, he's got the most wins here among active drivers. He's consistently good. I think barring some bad luck or maybe a small mistake, he's been kept out of victory lane recently. I think for me, out of the entire field right now, Denny Hamlin's probably the most dangerous, to be honest with you. And we're coming to a track where he's exceptionally good at. So he would be my top choice here for Darlington.
And Eric, your money, looks like your biggest money went on Truex, Hamlin, and you also have the biggest payout being Harvick. So who would be your top pick?
I agree. Probably Hamlin. I feel like he's due, and he just seems to win a lot. He's got more. I want to say Truex leads a lot of laps, and he has won at Darlington before, but Hamlin's won there multiple times. I mean, he's got 9 top 10s in his last 13 there. He's hot on the season, as CJ said, and you're getting better plus 7 or plus 750, 700 now compared to plus 500 on Truex. So I think the better value is Hamlin. I trust him a little bit more. Granted, Truex has led 914 laps in 22 starts there. He's won twice, but Hamlin just seems to be the safer play this weekend between them. And Toyota, oddly enough, they haven't won the last 2 Darlington races, but prior to last year, they won 3 of 4 and 7 of the last 10 overall. So they lead a lot of laps. It just almost pick Toyota driver here is the type of week this could be this week with Darlington and fitting their driving styles.
Yeah, again, because you taking a look at the favorites, let's see. Eric, you decided to pass on Larson and Byron. I only went with Hamlin. CJ gobbled up all 4 as he normally does, and probably the way to go this week. Matter of fact, Truex is the one that he's the one that you kind of look at, and it's weird because you would think, well, he's the best driver, isn't he? Just on the last 3 races, he's led a combined 221 laps. He led 248 laps in his 21 win. He led 196 laps, finishing 22nd in 2020. Matter of fact, he finished 22nd in 2020, leading 196 laps. And in the last 3 races with those 221 laps combined led, he's finished 31st, and 24th. So for whatever reason, he can't finish these races lately, or sometimes he does, but most of the time it doesn't seem like it, even though he's the better driver. So that's the reason why it's kind of, for me, it's kind of hard to take him at 5-1 when he just, look what we just showed you. I don't know what's going on with him here. Maybe he wanted too much. I have no idea. Larson's never won at Darlington, even though he won Homestead last year, pretty dominated the race, and he's 3-time runner-up here at Darlington, and should have finished at least second this week. It should be this year. Again, Byron stole the win, as we talked about, won Homestead in 2021, but never would have won this race if it wasn't for the 2 late wrecks. And if you throw out the 2 wins he's had in the last 12 races, he doesn't have any top 5s. So, what do you think about the other 3 drivers, CJ, not named Denny Hamlin?
So Truex is really difficult to ignore because of exactly how good he's been. He's been ridiculously fast at Darlington, but he's not been able to close the deal. He's got 2 victories here total in his entire career. The last one was 2021. But like you said, led a ton of laps, started from pole, but hasn't closed the deal, DNF in his last 3. So I felt like I kind of had to take Truex as insurance because he's been so good. There's a good likelihood that he's going to win. But honestly, I think this is going to end up being a Toyota race, a Joe Gibbs race. So I think it's probably going to come down to Byron, Truex and Hamlin. Though I do think a Larson or a Byron is going to be there to steal it at the end again, just like they did last time. I think you're going to get Hamlin or Truex dominating this race. But if mistakes happen, if crashes happen, etc., anything untoward happens to either of those guys, I think it's going to be Larson or Byron that's there to pick up the pieces.
S. Cole, who we heard from, he made a comment on last week's show. He's in the live chat. And he says, Larson and Mr. H were upset from Dover. Chastain wrecked a lap car that wiped out Larson. You guys remember that?
Yep, that was that was the carryover.
Yep. Good point.
So I guess that's where the bad blood comes from. I guess it's
because they were both back-to-back early May races. Yep,
okay.
That was when it was like, all right, you wrecked my driver twice now. Time to reel it in. Plus, I mean, he was in that Talladega scrum in April too. So
I wonder if Chastain at the time with, I wrecked that lapped car that bounced into Larson though, or if he was just thinking he squeezed me last time. I'm gonna get him back.
Okay.
So Larson was definitely going. Yeah, Chastain probably not so much. Short-term memory.
All right, now as far as the rest of the field, none of us took Kyle Busch, and it's kind of hard to go with him when he has 1 win. That's it in his career at Darlington.
Yep.
Decent stats, but just 1 win, and he's 10-1. You went with Bell, Eric. That surprised me. He's 11-1. Odds are a little low. Why'd you go with Bell?
Because I 100% agree with what CJ said, the Toyota factor and being a Toyota. Remember, he was up front last year. He had an issue with, I think it was Suarez at one point in the race, but Bell was running up front. I feel like he's starting. I throw Daytona aside because Daytona's a different breed. But Watkins Glen, Indy, granted, another road courses, but he mentioned the momentum. They're starting to get those finishes back. He started 3rd and 2nd, respectively, finishing 6th and 5th last year. So I just felt like 11-1. If I'm going to go in on Toyotas, I don't want to ignore Christopher Bell. Plus, I mean, he's a dirt track guy, and I feel like this track with laying it all out there, run that high line. You see what Larson does as a dirt track guy on these tracks. Bell, I thought for 11-1 was a good value, so I went his direction.
Chastain, 11-1. CJ and I took Chastain. And yeah, I think this is maybe a good race to kind of get him going here after what happened earlier this year. So we know he could have won. We'll see what happens. And he was 2nd at Homestead last year. So also you throw in Reddick at 13-1. Eric and I took Reddick. And if you look at it, Reddick had a top 5 going in the first race at Darlington until the wreck, the 13 to go wreck. That would have been 3 straight top 5s at Darlington for Reddick. He was 3rd in runner-up in 21. And he had 2 top 5s in 3 races at Homestead, including a 21 runner-up. So that's the reason I went with Reddick. What about you, Eric? Same thing?
Same. He's pretty good. Yeah, he's like Larson, and a quieter Larson in the sense that these are his best tracks. His Homesteads, Darlingtons. He loves that high line. He lives up there, so he was made for it. Eventually, he's going to break out and win one of these Cup races at one of these tracks. So again, Toyota power now. If you notice my picks, it's all in on Toyota. Even his teammate, when we get to him, I went with him. I just feel good about Toyota playoff drivers, and this last year was the first year a non-playoff driver won the opening playoff race. I just don't see that happening 2 years in a row. So I played the odds with Toyota playoff drivers. So we'll see if it works out for me, or they're going to all, the spring race a couple of years ago, they all wrecked with each other on the backstretch. So I probably just jinxed all of them by saying that.
That's two straight races. That's 2 straight Darlington races we've had big wrecks influence the race. So,
yep.
The new car, maybe that's what's going on. We'll see.
Well, last year, remember, right, the Gibbs cars in this very race, it's how Eric Jones won. Kyle was leading, and I think it was a water pump went out while he was leading late in the race, and then it handed the lead to Truex, and then Truex had like a drivetrain or powertrain, something go out while he was leading. And then Eric Jones was just, all right, if you guys don't want to win, I'll take it. So Gibbs is they just have weird things happen there, but I just can't envision of like a 3rd or 4th straight race of something weird happening to their drivers while they're leading. So I just took all the Toyota guys and figured one of them should be winning at some point.
Well, you see there, Toyota's the second choice at plus 160. So if you really like Toyota, that's not bad. Might want to go that direction. Also, Kevin Harvick.
I would absolutely.
What were you saying there, CJ? You
There's
like
also,
that bet?
while you're talking, a driver prop. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would take that bet. I think I agree with Eric. I think it's a Toyota race to lose. Really, it's going to be Chevrolet. If something happens to the Toyotas, they're going to be there to pick up the pieces, as I said. So I would absolutely take that one if Toyota's second favorite, as you said there.
I like that driver prop of a Reddit getting plus money against Chastain for just head-to-head. You can parlay that with Toyota outright win, and you got a good plus money right there. Just those two alone.
And Hamlin against Byron's not bad. Logano against Blaney.
Oh, that's another good one. Yeah. Yeah, there's some good head-to-heads.
Harvick against Buescher.
And Kyle Busch, that'd be a tough one because they both are pretty good. But Kyle, he's getting Busch, but I feel like he's still on a milk carton somewhere. So we're still looking for Kyle Busch. So he scares me.
I agree. Totally agree. That's why I didn't take him this week.
Same. It's like I don't know where Kyle is. He's disappeared like a month ago, and it's hard to just turn it back on. Again, he was, like I said, he was leading last year and something happened. So I just feel like there's better value out there.
Well, the playoffs have started, so we'll see if some of these veteran drivers start waking up, including Harvick at 15-1. And this is the best stretch of the season. 5 top 10s in his last 7 with 2 top 5s. He has 3 wins. Second this year, should have been more like a top 10. So, I mean, I think the odds are right for Harvick. That's the reason why I put money on him. You put some money on him as well, Eric. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about Buescher, I mean, he was 10th this year, which was really as good as he's only led 1 lap in his career at Darlington. I don't know. I don't look at this as the same as, like, I can kind of explain his other wins. But I don't know if I could. This would really be something if you'd all of a sudden start winning in places like Darlington. So.
Well, he's good. Go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
I disagree. I view him very much as an Eric Jones type of guy at Darlington. I just don't think that he's had the car that's been able to put him up front at this track on a regular basis yet. Jones has had more opportunities, I think, and he's won 2 races. I think Buescher, if you remember just 2 seasons ago, the Roush cars were insanely good on any rough surface. So Atlanta was in there at the time, Homestead was in there at the time, this track was in there at the time. I do think that Roush, for whatever reason, get their cars to work really, really well and their tires to work really, really well on these types of surfaces. I think with the confidence in the car that he's got now, Buescher could come out and probably win at a place like Darlington.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say that same thing. It seemed like coming into this season, Buescher's bread and butter tracks were these age surfaces. You look at his best finishes were the Atlantas, and you look last year, he won Bristol. It's a concrete track. That's abuses tires. He just won Richmond. That's a track notorious for abusing tires. So 15 to 1 was a little tough. I felt putting him in that category. Like if he was 20 to 1, I would have been all over it. But I do feel like he could have a say in this. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's like CJ said, these cars have been good on these types of surfaces, and Buescher's benefited the greatest out of it. And I just point to that Richmond win a few weeks ago that he just won on an age surface. So I wouldn't be shocked. I think it would be one of those that people would say, like, where'd he come from for this race? But I mean, the philosophy has always been it's hard to bet a driver to win 2 straight weeks, but he just did it too. It just seems like he's defying all logic right now. So I wouldn't be shocked. I think he's one of the sleepers in the playoffs too, just because of he's good on some of these tracks. I feel like he could capitalize, and this is one of them.
Didn't he?
The only reason I didn't have him in this week's picks was because I didn't think he could go back to back.
Yeah, right. Sure. So
sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No, that's what we thought at Michigan because he have a good history. At least it looked like because we picked him at Richmond, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we cashed in on him there.
I don't know about Michigan. I don't know if
it's because the age surface thing.
Okay, yeah. I don't know about Michigan though. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if he
Michigan was a big. Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric. I mean, CJ.
Definitely a bigger surprise than Michigan. For Michigan was the surprise one for me for Buescher. Like I can see the Richmond again because of the rough surface and the tires and so on, but the Michigan one was a surprise for sure. Darlington I could see falling back into his wheelhouse again. But again, the only reason I didn't choose him this week, I actually had him in my pre-choices, but then when I had to skinny it down to get under the amount that we had, he was the one that I dropped out. And again, it's probably the 15 to 1 versus 20 to 1, as Eric said.
Yeah, again,
this would be a good. I haven't seen this bet out there, and this would be more for the preview show for the playoffs. But I think you could set the over under of the first 2 rounds as 1.5 for Roush Fenway wins, and I'd almost take the over. I think they can. You got Buescher's good on road courses. They're both good on super speedways. I think one of them wins this round between Darlington and Bristol. They could win half the playoff races going into the round of 8, which is wildly enough. You would have thought we were drunk or on drugs saying that last year. Like, oh, these guys are going to win half the playoff races. But you look at what's shaping up for them. This is a really good track for them to jump out the gate pretty good. And Bristol is the cut race. And we saw what they did there last year. I wouldn't sleep on them. I think they have something on Sunday night too.
Well, CJ and I put money on Keselowski. He's at 16 to 1. He's been 6th or better in 5 of his last 8 races this year, including the runner-up last week. He was 4th this year at Darlington, 7th in this race last year. He won it in 2018. Doesn't have great stats overall at Darlington, but he does have a win, and he's hot, so maybe it's his turn instead of Buescher. And then rounding it out, Eric and I both put money on Logano and Wallace, and CJ decided he's sticking at least another week with Chase Elliott. That's 17 to 1.
He was 3rd here, 3rd in May. I think he's been running really well. He's been a top 5, top 10 car, just hasn't had. They've made some mistakes, Watkins Glen being one of them, the other crash being another one. But he was 3rd here in May. There's a place he's been pretty good at, or pretty decent at, I should say. He doesn't have a win, but he's got a pole back in 2020. I think, as long as he keeps up this top 5, top 10 kind of run, I'm going to keep him in choices for a win before the end of the season. I was expecting it to come before the playoffs, but it didn't.